Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing part 2 of the video that I made before last, I believe. My general best eating disorder recovery advice. I asked my followers on Instagram to send me their questions or dilemmas in eating disorder recovery, and I will answer them from the perspective of somebody who has been through the largest part of their recovery. I don't class myself as 100% fully recovered purely because I still get thoughts here and there that I still have to fight, and I still feel like I have a bit more healing that I could do in terms of my relationship with food. But for the last almost 3 years now, I have been in recovery from anorexia after a long battle with it, and I am doing the best I have ever done. I live a really free life around food. I can go out to restaurants, I can join in with family meals, I can do basically everything I wanted to do that I couldn't do when I was struggling with anorexia. Oh, and before I get started, you can't really see my hoodie, but I will put a picture of it on the screen. If you've been here for a while, you will have seen that in the past I've run charity campaigns for Beat, and I've created hoodies and t-shirts and tote bags and sweatshirts with self-love designs on them, and with every purchase you will be donating a portion of the profits to charity, specifically Beat the Eating Disorder charity. They are available internationally all over the world, and this is the last ever launch of these exact designs. I will leave the link in the description. But anyway, let's answer some eating disorder dilemmas or queries or questions or whatever. We're starting off kind of deep. How do you take care and nourish your body even though you don't like it? I feel like I slightly touched on this in the last video when I answered a question about how to feel like you deserve food, and I think I kind of said that when you start recovery you probably won't really feel like you deserve food because the whole point is that you're fighting those cognitions. I've had so many questions recently about how to actually start recovery when you don't really want to start recovery, and it's such a mental dilemma. Like, I don't think that there is one answer for this. I think that everyone is completely different. But nourishing your body isn't actually about how your body looks. Nourishing your body is not about your weight. Obviously, eating disorder recovery for many people does involve weight gain, but nourishing your body and being kind to your body is not for the sake of how your body looks. It's not about whether you like your body or not. You literally have to nourish your body to live, and people around you want you to live. Even if you're someone that's struggling with your purpose in life or feeling like you don't really want to be here, people around you want you here, and you will find happiness again, and you will find your reason to stay. So even if you don't love your body or you don't like how it looks, you need to nourish it and give it food and fuel, because otherwise, inevitably, your body is going to give up, and nobody wants that. And I think in my recovery, that's what I really had to keep in mind, was like, yeah, I don't love my body. I don't look at my body and think I really deserve food, because I was struggling with anorexic cognitions. But people without eating disorders don't sit down at the dinner table and go, my body really deserves this food, I'm gonna eat. The majority of people just eat because it's what humans have to do to survive. So kind of try and take the emotion out of it and take the link to your body image out of it. Like, this is just fuel. Your body needs it regardless of how you feel about your body. I've just scrolled past like 5 of similar questions that are just a little bit differently worded. How to make sure I don't overeat? Why can I not stop eating? Did you binge? How do I listen to my hunger cues? This is such a complicated part of recovery that is really hard to wrap your head around. And to be honest, I'm probably going to end up saying that about every single question, because eating disorder recovery is not a simple thing. I think if recovery was a one-size-fits-all thing, doctors and nurses would know about it and they'd just click their fingers and we'd all get better. But eating disorders all develop from different places. They all are used to cope with different situations. Like, everybody's eating disorder is different. It is going to be different for every person. Try and keep that in mind when I am answering these questions. I get asked all the time, did I binge in recovery? Binging as a result of restriction is actually a really, really natural response from your body. Now, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a medic, I don't know the ins and outs of all the science. Personally, I didn't struggle with binging. That does not mean that you are invalid or not unwell or not anorexic or whatever if you binge. Binging, as I said, is very, very often your body's answer to restriction. And I am not the best person to talk about binging because it isn't something I've struggled with, but that doesn't make me on some like high ground or like better than anyone because I haven't binged. Binging is an eating disorder behaviour in the same way that restricting is an eating disorder behaviour, and neither one makes you better than the other. So people that ask me about binging, I didn't, loads of people did. It doesn't change how much you struggled or whether you're valid or not. Moving on to how to not overeat. In recovery, when you're going from having restricted to trying to listen to your hunger and eating to a meal plan or eating more than you used to, it's obviously going to feel like you're out of control. Like, anorexia is majorly about control. Often the way people feel in control is by avoiding eating. I don't know your personal situation, whoever's watching this, but I do know that extreme hunger, feeling like you're rarely full in recovery, is really, really common. You have starved your body for a long period of time, you have restricted for a long period of time, and now you're allowing your body food. It wants to replace everything it's lost, and you're finally listening to it, and so it's finally giving you those hunger signals again. You're not crazy, you're not out of control, you're not going to binge into infinity, you are not overeating, you are listening to your body's needs. And a person's needs in anorexia recovery is so different from what a person needs when they've had a healthy relationship with food. You are allowed to eat differently to what people are eating around you. You're allowed to break the diet culture rules. I remember in recovery, I would sometimes have this huge guilt when I wanted to eat more after my dinner, because I would hear in my head these old like diet culture phrases, and I would tell myself that I was being greedy or that I didn't really need it. And then I would take a step back and I'd be like, hold on, I have restricted food for so long. If I want to recover, I cannot sit here and tell my body what it can and can't have. I need to listen to it and heal my relationship with food. And the way to heal your relationship with food in a lot of cases is to allow your body to have what it wants. And that is really hard, obviously, to wrap your head around when you've been struggling with anorexia, but it's really important. And I feel like I went on a really big ramble there. Did I actually answer the question? Well, it wasn't really one question, it was like 20 questions. I'm missing a nail, by the way, ignore that. The main takeaway from that is basically just stop telling yourself that you're overeating. Overeating only exists if you're putting a limit on how much you should be eating. Do you know what I mean? Some food for thought, if you'll pardon the pun. How do you not compare your eating habits to others in recovery? I struggle with this. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to be helpful because I don't know what other people were like as children, but as a child I had what I considered to be a very free and balanced and healthy relationship with food. I would come home from school and I would want sweet snacks, so I'd have sweet snacks, and as a kid I would always say yes to pudding. I would want the pizza, I would want the garlic bread with the pizza, but I also did have hunger signals as a kid, and I would eat when I was hungry and stop when I was full. So instead of comparing myself to other people in recovery, which I actually made a conscious effort not to do, by the way, I unfollowed like everyone that was in recovery, but in a recovery that I didn't relate to, if you know what I mean. And I just really protected my peace in that sense. But instead of comparing myself to other people in recovery, I compare myself to my childhood self. And I think a lot about what would I have done when I was younger, and I know that I did have a healthy relationship with food. What would I have done before anorexia was a thing in my brain? And even if when I was a kid I would have eaten a little bit less, because when I was in anorexia recovery and I needed to gain weight and I was really hungry, I probably did sometimes eat more than I did when I was a child. I had to keep telling myself that I wasn't going to let myself have the guilt that I had, because when I was a kid I probably would have loved to have had the hunger and just eaten all the like treaty foods. So my main advice for this is unfollow anyone that is making you compare yourself. Before we had social media, unless you were in an inpatient unit or a support group or your friends happened to have anorexia, you probably wouldn't have even known about it, which is kind of the danger of social media. You wouldn't have had anyone to compare yourself to. It would have just been the people around you who had hopefully a healthy relationship with food. But if there are people that are making you compare yourself and feel bad about what you're eating in recovery, unfollow them. Or if you can't unfollow them because it will make things awkward, mute them. And remember that what you're doing is right for your body. You would know deep down if what you were doing was wrong, if that makes sense. This is so specific, but maybe it's not that specific because I dealt with it and this person is also dealing with it. The issue of being told you need to gain weight when some of your friends are at or under your weight. In secondary school, when I had anorexia and I needed to be gaining weight, I found it really hard knowing that I was being told I needed to gain weight when there were other people who I perceived to be smaller than me. Can I just say, a lot of the time that you're perceiving other people to be smaller than you, that is just your body dysmorphia, because I literally thought everyone under the sun was smaller than me when I was really underweight. So first of all, you can't really trust that judgment. Oh, I've got to go let my mum in because I locked her out. 1 second. I'm back. There we go. As I was saying, I vividly remember other girls in my year being smaller than the weight that I was expected to be when I'd finished gaining weight, and I think that's a really scary thing when you have anorexia, because you compare yourself to literally everyone and you want to be smaller than everyone because then you'll know that you're skinny, kind of thing. And a lot of my friends were very slim, so when I gained weight and I perceived myself as really big, I found that really hard. I think what you need to remember in anorexia recovery especially is that if medical professionals are telling you that you need to gain weight, you need to gain weight. And even if they're not, and you feel like your body's not healthy or you're not happy and you don't have a great relationship with food, there's a reason that you need to gain weight. In CAMS, I'm pretty sure one of their criteria is getting your period back. If you can't get your period back at a weight that is the same as or lower than your friends who you perceive as smaller than you, you are not at the weight you are meant to be. I, looking back, would also just like to make the point that not everybody loses their period, and that is fine. It is not the #1 indicator of whether you're well or unwell, and I do personally feel like there is maybe too much focus put on it in eating disorder services. But if you can listen to what I just said but maybe replace the period bit with having a free relationship with food, because I also think that you need to gain weight until you have a free relationship with food. It's kind of complicated, but I hope that makes sense. And everyone is meant to be at a different weight. We're not all meant to be the same size, otherwise we'd all be the exact same height and shape and weight. Everybody's weight is going to differ, and you're not meant to look exactly like your peers. That is just a fact of life, and I know it's hard to wrap your head around, but there is a reason that you need to gain weight. And do you know what? Also, I think we forget, like, when you have a consultant or a GP or whoever who's like, you need to gain weight, the medical world is actually very focused on weight loss. So if you're being told you need to gain weight, there is 100% a reason that you're being told you need to gain weight. Like, they don't tell people that lightly. And often they miss it when they should be telling people that. So in my mind, you need to stop comparing yourself to people around you and remember that you are different and you're different for a reason. Before I answer the next question, I do just want to have a little ad break. I've kind of been reluctant for a long time on this channel to properly do ads. When I was younger, I would get really annoyed watching YouTubers and they would have ads in their videos, right? I know that I don't need to justify myself, can I just say that? But right now, helping people recover through my videos and content is what I'm doing for work. And to be able to do this, I will be working with brands from time to time. And I don't get much hate to do with it, but I do get some, and the few bits of hate that I do get impact me way more. And I just wanted to say, like, I am so endlessly grateful for all your support on this channel. Sometimes I will work with very select brands who I really believe in because it allows me to keep making content that you can watch for free. So anyways, this is a brand that I've worked with before that so many of you love, and I'm so excited to be able to share this with you again because I've had so much positive feedback from you guys. And I don't know, I always do this like build up where I don't say what the thing is and then I really hype it up. The brand I'm talking about is Loop. Obviously. Loop earplugs are a brand that make earplugs to help people with noise sensitivity issues, who get overstimulated in loud environments, who just generally don't like loud noise, and they have been a godsend to me. I can get so overstimulated and so anxious when I'm in loud environments. For instance, on the underground or at concerts or in a bar with loud music. These are your saviour. And Loop have just released Loop Switch. So basically with Loop Switch you get combined engage, experience and quiet, and you can switch, in the name, between the different modes when you're out and about. And by the way, there's no battery in these, they're not electric, they are reusable, planet friendly, but the fact that you can have that technology without any battery in it and it's not going to die on you when you're out and about is a dream. Can I get them open though? There we go. I have used the quiet range, the experience range and the engage range, so I'm so excited about these. They come with different sized earbuds so that you can find a fit that is right for your ear. They come in this carry case, so you will never lose them because if you're like me, you lose everything. These are designed so that you don't have to carry around 3 different versions of Loops with you, because the Engage are really good for like social gatherings, when you're talking to people and you don't want the distraction of excess noise, whereas you've got Experience, which is really great for like concerts, gigs, festivals, as I said, like being in a loud bar, things like that. Everything's so quiet. And then you've got Quiet, which is generally great for noise sensitivity and just blocking out noise. So those are Loop Switch, and if you want to get your hands on them, I will put the link in the description. I have a discount code up here which will get you 10% off. So yeah, with that, on with the video. This next question I think is quite interesting, and I think is something that a lot of us struggle with, to be honest, and that is how to eat healthy without being restrictive. I personally have the belief that eating healthy involves eating every type of food. So eating healthy to me just means having a good relationship with food. I am never going to go out of my way to only eat fruits, veggies, whole foods and then be calling myself healthy. I am healthy because I have a range of processed, high fat, high sugar foods and fruits, veggies, whole foods, all of it. I have a balance, and that is healthy. And I think that diet culture and society has really taught us that the only things that are considered healthy are low carb, low fat, low calorie, all of that. In movies, TV shows, you hear all the time, oh no, I can't have that pizza or that donut or whatever it is because I'm eating healthy. And it just puts out this message that that isn't healthy, but in reality that is absolutely healthy. And I would argue that actually eating those things alongside whole foods is way healthier than not eating them at all. So please don't go into recovery trying to eat healthy. Allow yourself to eat the things that your body craves. And if you're in early recovery, you're probably going to crave a lot of the foods that are known as being unhealthy. At least I did. And I ate them and I ate them and I ate them and I ate them until I started to also fancy fruit and veg. And now I eat a completely balanced diet. It helped me gain weight. It helped me become healthy and get my period back, and now I eat a balanced diet. But a balanced diet to me, can I just say, I had a Chinese last night and a Nando's the day before, but then I'm also having fruits and veg and whole foods as well. I'm not focused on making sure I have a certain amount of anything because I don't restrict anything, because I don't restrict anything, it happens naturally. And I think that that is the case for a lot of people, but we get too in our heads about trying to eat a certain way. How to start eating again when your parents aren't monitoring you. Something that will probably really resonate with people who were in cams and had their parents come to like eat with them at lunch and stuff like that. It is really hard to let go of that. It is really hard to give yourself permission to eat when you know that nobody's watching you, but it is so necessary. And it's something that I had to face because I felt a lot of guilt knowing that nobody was watching me, because I was like, well, I could just not be eating. And then I'd be like, but what would be the point of that? I'm not recovering to please other people. I'm recovering to get my own life back. I'm recovering because I want to be 40 and my husband's out at work and I need to eat my lunch, so I get myself something yummy when I'm home alone. I don't want to be relying on other people's permission to eat for the rest of my life. Part of recovery, a huge part of recovery really, is giving yourself the permission to eat and giving yourself the permission to be kind to your body and rest. And I definitely think that there is a place for people supervising you eating or sitting with you while you eat. But you need to remember that you're not only eating because somebody is sat with you, you are eating because you want your life back. Remember all the reasons that you've chosen to recover, remember all the bad things about anorexia, and use that to motivate you through your meals, even when nobody's with you. Because actually the times where nobody is supporting you is the times that you really need to dig deep and remember your motivations and remember why you started. A couple of people have again kind of said the same thing, just in different words, and it's basically the issue of when you're in a social situation or you're at school or at work and people are like, I didn't even eat breakfast this morning, like I haven't eaten all day and it's 4 p.m. and it's like, please shut up because I've eaten breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, and then I'm gonna go home and eat dinner, like be quiet. It's a really triggering thing. You kind of get in your head and you're like, why am I eating if they don't even need to eat? But they do need to eat. When me and my boyfriend started dating, he didn't have a very regular eating pattern at all, and I was really like, I need to have my lunch, my breakfast, my snack, all of it. And what I learned from him is that a lot of these people that think that they don't need breakfast actually feel sick in the morning because their body's not used to having food that early. You know, they go into school and they flex about it because they think they're so great, because society's taught them that it's so incredible to be able to avoid eating, and that being able to diet successfully is such a strong sign of willpower, but that is a load of bullshit. It just is. Humans need regular food to keep our blood sugar steady, to keep our brains functioning well, to get through the day and feel energized. We need regular food, and that is just a fact of life. So if people are coming into school and they're like, oh, I didn't even eat breakfast, they're screwing themselves over. It's not that their body doesn't need it or that they're some really strong, amazing person for not eating breakfast. They've just confused their metabolism to the point of their body not understanding that it needs breakfast. And it's a little bit like when you have anorexia and your hunger signals just go out the window because you're ignoring them. Those people have an irregular eating pattern, and so their body isn't giving them the same hunger signals. But also another thing about people that don't eat breakfast, and this isn't me trying to shit on people that don't eat breakfast, like some people don't eat breakfast and I don't think you're a horrible person for not eating breakfast. I'm just saying generally, a lot of the people that don't eat earlier on in the day will then make up for it by eating a lot more in the evenings anyway. So although you're hearing this thing and you're thinking like, oh my god, they've eaten so much less than me, you have no idea what they're eating the rest of the day. Guys, there's so many sirens in my area at the moment. What is going on? It's very annoying when you're trying to film, but I feel like I went on a bit of a rant, and I'm really not trying to hate on anyone because everyone has different eating patterns and stuff, and that is what it is. But it does really annoy me when people make a huge deal out of having not had breakfast or lunch, because it's just like, okay. Anyway, we've gone on a tangent, haven't we? Is eating some food still scary for you? If I'd have seen this question when I was making part 1 of this, I probably would have just ignored it, because I've said so many times about how I don't have any fear foods anymore. And I don't have fear foods per se, but last night I had a Chinese takeaway for the first time ever in my life, okay? Chinese takeaways just weren't part of my family's routine growing up, and I was actually convinced. I've probably had maybe one bad Chinese meal, not even a takeaway, you know, when I was a kid, and I just convinced myself that I didn't like Chinese food. And I think in diet culture, like, one of the takeaways that is most talked about is Chinese. But my boyfriend was someone whose family often had a Chinese takeaway, and he loves Chinese takeaway, and he's always wanted us to get a Chinese takeaway because he was like, you would love it. And I was steadfast in my belief that I would hate Chinese takeaway. Last night I thought, fuck it, let's just have a Chinese takeaway, and if I hate it, I hate it. But I felt like I needed to push that, and I needed to challenge that, because I was like, am I kind of holding on to a little rule here, or a little fear? Because a lot of my hesitations to try foods in anorexia recovery was like, I hated that when I was a child, I'll hate it now and it will be a waste. And even though I don't think I had that exact cognition, there was a bit of me that was like, hold on, why am I so insistent that I will not have a Chinese takeaway? That's a very long-winded way of me trying to say that there are little fears and little rules and little remnants of your eating disorder that you're going to be finding years on in recovery, and that you're still going to have to challenge. And even if you get to a point where you think, I've had every ingredient of every meal under the sun and nothing scares me anymore, you will still have little rules. And when you feel them come up and you feel this resistance in you, and you're like, I don't want that, and I'm not having that, and it doesn't feel really aligned with who you are, but it feels more aligned with who your eating disorder is, those are things that you still have to challenge and you still have to push. Because I sort of thought I don't really need to challenge anything anymore, but there are little things that sometimes pop up that I think I need to push myself on that. Okay, this one's also quite interesting. Gaining weight faster / more than what recovery accounts I follow have gained in recovery. Obviously, I'm not going to say don't follow recovery accounts, because I technically started out as a recovery account. I don't actually consider myself a recovery account now, because I just feel like that's a very restrictive identity, and I don't want to be known as an anorexia girl. There are really incredible helpful recovery accounts, and then there are recovery accounts who are sharing a recovery journey that may not line up with your recovery journey, and you find yourself comparing and you think, I'm doing things too fast, or I'm greedy, or I'm challenging things that I shouldn't be challenging, and that is not true. Honestly, if there are people that are making you feel like that, unfollow them. It's not anything they're doing maliciously, I'm sure, but you don't need to be having those negative feelings. That is a very, very controllable part of your life, that you can go on there and you can unfollow them, and you will not have to see their content anymore. And you can follow other influencers and body positive people and people that have recovered at a quicker rate. There are people that started recovery at the same time as me and were documenting their recovery, and they gained weight a lot slower than I did. And I'm not saying I gained weight super fast or anything. Let's not put any numbers or comparisons on me and you or other people. But I remember at the time there were people that I perceived to be gaining weight slower than I was, and I did have to unfollow a lot of people because it was really triggering and I would get those thoughts. But you need to remember that actually this is your recovery, and I say this a lot, but it is your recovery. What they're doing is going to impact their life. What they're doing is going to impact their future. You do not exist on this earth to be more unwell than someone else. You don't exist on this earth to be unwell, full stop. You don't exist on this earth to be underweight. You are trying to get your life back, and if that means that you gain weight a little bit faster than people around you who are going through a similar thing, so be it. Not everyone's journey is the same. You want full freedom and you want a life, and that means accepting weight gain and eating freely. I feel like that was a bit of a ramble, but that's how I feel. I've actually been filming for like nearly 40 minutes now, and I'm kind of thinking, how much more should I answer? But I don't want to do a part 3, although would a part 3 be helpful? Maybe I could do a part 3. There are so many things. I think it's mad that I've never really done just eating disorder recovery Q&As. Like, I know I don't really want to tie myself to an eating disorder identity, but there is so much that I can say that I know could be quite helpful to people. So maybe I will do a part 3, and maybe we'll end it there, because I am going to not love past me when I have to sit and edit an hour of footage. So yeah, thank you so much for being on this journey with me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much if you've watched this far, and thank you for also supporting my sponsored content, because it allows me to keep making videos like this and to have the time in my day to sit here and talk to you and try and help you recover, or try and help you help people in your life. So yeah, please like and please subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I will leave the link for Loop in the description, and I will also leave the link for the hoodies and t-shirts that are still on sale in the description. I love you so very much, and I will see you soon for a part 3 of this video, or maybe a different video in the meantime. I'm not sure.